Did you know that after the age of 70, your body can still build new muscle just as effectively as someone in their 30s, but only if you give it the right signal? For decades, the common belief was that once you reach your later years, muscle decline is inevitable. Doctors used to call it sarcopenia, and many assumed it was a one-way road. But modern neuroscience and nutritional science are proving something radically different. Muscle growth is not about age, it's about strategy. And one overlooked protein source is emerging in the research as being even more effective than eggs at stimulating muscle repair and growth in older adults. Why does this matter? Because muscle isn't just about strength or appearance. In your 70s, 80s and beyond, muscle is medicine. It stabilizes your joints, protects you from falls, balances your hormones, supports brain health, and even regulates blood sugar. In fact, studies show that maintaining lean muscle mass later in life can cut your risk of cognitive decline nearly in half. So when we talk about building muscle after 70, we're not just talking about biceps, we're talking about preserving independence, vitality, and mental clarity. In today's video, we're going to explore the cutting-edge science of muscle building for seniors. We'll break down why certain proteins send a stronger signal to your muscles, how your nervous system coordinates repair, and the timing strategies that make all the difference. Most importantly, you'll walk away with a practical blueprint, rooted in neuroscience and nutrition, for building and maintaining muscle well into your golden years. So stay with me, because what I'm about to share is not just about food or fitness. It's about reclaiming your body's ability to adapt, grow, and thrive, no matter your age. And by the end, you'll know exactly which protein works better than eggs for building muscle after 70, and how to apply it starting today. Have you ever noticed how two people of the same age can look and feel completely different? One 75-year-old may walk with confidence, garden with ease, and even lift weights. Another, at the very same age, might struggle with basic tasks like standing up from a chair. What explains this difference? For years, doctors assumed it was just aging itself, as though muscle simply wore out over time. But modern physiology tells a very different story. The decline we often see is not because the body can't build muscle anymore. It's because the signals that tell the body to grow get weaker, and often we stop sending those signals altogether. Here's what the research shows. Starting in our 40s and 50s, the body begins losing muscle mass at a rate of about 1% per year. By the 70s, this can add up to a significant decline, a condition scientists call sarcopenia. But here's the hopeful part. Sarcopenia is not hardwired into aging. It's largely a consequence of lifestyle, nutrition, and what neuroscientists call anabolic resistance. Anabolic resistance means that as we age, our muscles don't respond as strongly to small doses of protein or mild exercise. Imagine your muscles are like a radio antenna. In your 20s, the signal from food and exercise comes in loud and clear. By your 70s, that same signal sounds faint, like static. But the antenna isn't broken. It just needs a stronger broadcast. Studies from McMaster University and the Journal of the American Geriatric Society show that older adults can still build muscle at nearly the same rate as younger adults, provided they hit the right thresholds for protein intake and strength training intensity. In other words, the machinery is still intact. It just requires a more deliberate input. And here's where it gets exciting. Neuroscience reminds us that muscle growth is not just a muscle issue. It's a brain issue. Every time you move, your motor cortex in the brain sends a signal down the spinal cord, recruiting muscle fibers to fire. If you stop using certain muscles, the brain forgets to activate them. But when you engage in resistance training, even something as simple as chair squats or resistance band pulls, you retrain that neuromuscular pathway. The brain relearns how to turn on those fibers, and the body responds by laying down new muscle. So when we say building muscle after 70 is possible, we're really saying this. Your brain and muscles are still in conversation. They just need you to strengthen the signal. A simple tool to apply here is to focus on compound movements that use multiple muscle groups and challenge balance. Things like squats, step-ups, or push-ups against a wall. These exercises don't just build muscle, they keep the neural circuits sharp. And when paired with the right type of protein, which we'll talk about shortly, they amplify the signal for growth. So the key takeaway from this first principle is this: muscle loss after 70 isn't an unavoidable decline. It's a reversible condition. The brain is plastic. The muscles are responsive. What matters is sending strong, consistent growth signals through both movement and nutrition. And in the video ahead, we're going to uncover the single most important nutrient switch that makes those signals louder, and why surprisingly it works even better than eggs. Let me ask you a question. If you had to pick one nutrient that tells your muscles it's time to grow, which would it be? Most people would probably say protein, and they'd be right, but only partly. The truth is, not all proteins are created equal, and one specific amino acid inside protein is what actually flips the growth switch. That amino acid is leucine. Here's what the research shows. Leucine is the most powerful trigger for muscle protein synthesis, the process your body uses to repair and build new muscle fibers. It does this by activating something called the mTOR pathway. Think of mTOR like the foreman of a construction site. Until leucine shows up, the workers, your muscle cells, are just standing around with no instructions. But the moment leucine enters your bloodstream in sufficient amounts, the foreman gives the order, start building. Now here's where it gets fascinating. Eggs have long been considered the gold standard for protein quality. But when it comes to leucine content, eggs fall short compared to another source, whey protein. A large egg contains about 0.6 grams of leucine. By contrast, just one scoop of whey protein powder can deliver 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine, often 4 to 5 times more in one sitting. And here's the critical part. Studies show that older adults need a threshold dose of around 2.5 grams of leucine per meal to overcome anabolic resistance and fully switch on muscle growth. This means that for someone over 70, eating just 1 or 2 eggs often won't be enough to hit that threshold. But a single serving of whey protein, it hits the sweet spot perfectly. That's why in clinical studies, seniors supplementing with whey gain more lean mass and strength than those eating the same total calories from other proteins. And it's not just about muscle, because leucine also has neurological benefits. Research published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience suggests that higher leucine intake can improve mitochondrial function, the energy factories of your cells, which supports not only muscle power but also brain vitality. So when you choose a protein high in leucine, you're feeding both your muscles and your nervous system. Here's a practical way to apply this. Try anchoring your day with one leucine-rich protein source. For many people, this looks like adding a whey protein shake after a workout, or even as a mid-morning meal. If you don't tolerate dairy well, there are specialized plant-based blends that fortify pea or rice protein with extra leucine to match whey's effectiveness. And let's make this concrete with a question. Have you ever noticed how you can eat a meal that feels satisfying, yet 2 hours later you feel sluggish or weak? Often, that's because the protein quality didn't cross the leucine threshold. With whey, you're not just eating protein. You're delivering a loud, clear signal to your muscles: grow, repair, strengthen. So while eggs are still an excellent, nutrient-dense food, when it comes to overcoming anabolic resistance after 70, whey protein is the superior tool. It's not about replacing real food, but about using science to give your body the most effective stimulus possible. And this brings us to the next piece of the puzzle: timing. Because even the best protein source only works if you use it in the right way. In the next section, we'll explore why when you eat protein matters even more than how much you eat in total, and how this simple shift can dramatically improve muscle building in your 70s and beyond. Here's something surprising. Eating more protein doesn't always mean building more muscle. In fact, if you spread protein too thinly throughout the day, a little here, a little there, you might never hit the threshold needed to trigger muscle growth. And after 70, this matters more than ever. Let's break this down. As we discussed earlier, older adults experience something called anabolic resistance. This means your muscles don't respond as strongly to smaller amounts of protein compared to someone in their 20s or 30s. Imagine a light switch. In younger bodies, even a small push flips it on. But in older bodies, the switch is stiffer. You need a stronger push. That push is reaching the leucine threshold, about 2.5 grams in one meal. Now here's the problem. Many seniors eat most of their protein at dinner, while breakfast and lunch are carb-heavy. For example, toast in the morning, soup or salad at lunch, then finally meat or fish at dinner. This creates long stretches where the body never hits that muscle-building threshold. By the time dinner arrives, much of the day has passed with the switch left off. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition confirms this. Older adults who distributed their protein evenly across 3 meals built significantly more muscle than those who ate the same total protein mostly at dinner. The takeaway? It's not just how much protein you eat in a day, it's how you spread it out. A simple tool to apply is this. Aim for 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein per meal. This ensures you're hitting that leucine threshold each time. For instance, you might have a whey protein shake with some berries at breakfast, grilled chicken or lentils at lunch, and fish with vegetables at dinner. That way, every meal sends a loud signal to your muscles to grow and repair, and don't overlook the power of timing around exercise. Studies show that consuming protein within about 2 hours after resistance training further amplifies muscle protein synthesis. Think of it as catching a wave. Exercise creates the wave, a state where your muscles are extra sensitive to nutrients. And protein is the surfboard that lets you ride it. Miss the wave, and you miss some of the growth potential. Now let's make this actionable. Tomorrow morning, ask yourself, does my first meal contain enough protein to hit that threshold? If not, consider starting the day with a leucine-rich source like whey. This small shift can completely change the trajectory of muscle health over time. And before we continue, let me pause to say this. If these science-based insights are helping you rethink your approach to aging, health, and performance, consider subscribing to this channel. Each week, we share grounded, practical tools like this, rooted in neuroscience and physiology, to help you thrive at every age. So the big idea here is simple. Muscle growth is about signaling, not just supply. Every meal is a chance to either whisper to your muscles or to shout. By timing your protein intake properly, you keep the growth signal strong throughout the day. Now, we'll expand this conversation beyond nutrition, because muscle isn't only built in the kitchen, it's also built in the nervous system. And when you understand how your brain controls muscle activation, you'll discover a whole new way to train smarter, not harder. Here's a powerful truth. Your muscles don't actually decide when to move or grow. Your brain does. Every curl of your bicep, every step you take, every squat you perform, starts as an electrical signal in the motor cortex of your brain. The signal travels down your spinal cord, out through the nerves, and into the muscle fibers, telling them to contract. Now, why does this matter after 70? Because one of the most overlooked reasons older adults lose strength isn't just shrinking muscle fibers, it's a weaker signal from the brain. If you don't train the nervous system, even high-quality protein can't fully translate into strength. Think of it like this. Your brain is the conductor of an orchestra, and your muscles are the instruments. With age, the conductor sometimes loses precision. The timing is off. Fewer instruments come in on cue, and the music doesn't sound as powerful. But here's the encouraging part. Just like practicing music sharpens the orchestra, practicing specific movements sharpens the brain-muscle connection. Research published in Frontiers in Physiology shows that older adults who engage in resistance training actually increase the excitability of motor neurons. In plain language, the brain becomes better at recruiting more muscle fibers. This is why seniors who lift weights often gain strength faster than they gain visible muscle, because their nervous system is learning to fire more efficiently. And you don't need to train like a bodybuilder to get these benefits. Even simple exercises like standing up from a chair without using your hands, walking heel to toe, or performing wall push-ups challenge your balance and force your brain to fire more motor units. Balance drills, in particular, are powerful because they demand constant feedback between your brain, inner ear, and muscles. That keeps the neural circuits active and responsive. Here's a practical framework. Strength training twice per week. Focus on compound moves like squats, rows, and presses that use multiple muscle groups. Balance drills daily. Something as simple as brushing your teeth while standing on one foot trains stability and neuromuscular control. Mindful movement. Slow, controlled repetitions with focus on form. This increases the brain's awareness of which muscles are firing. A practice neuroscientists call motor learning. Now let me ask you, have you ever done an exercise and felt it in the wrong place? Like squats that burn the lower back instead of the thighs? That's a neural issue, not a muscular one. The brain is misdirecting the signal. By slowing down and training the nervous system, you teach the body to activate the right muscles, which means protein and nutrition get channeled exactly where you want them. And here's the bigger picture. When you train the nervous system, you're not just building muscle. You're protecting your brain. Exercise that coordinates strength and balance has been shown to reduce the risk of cognitive decline because the same neural circuits that control movement also keep memory and focus sharp. In other words, building physical strength after 70 also reinforces mental strength. So remember this. Protein feeds the muscle, but movement trains the brain. Combine both, and you create a synergy that keeps you strong, mobile, and mentally sharp. Now, we'll look at the hidden ingredient that most people forget when trying to build muscle: recovery. Because no matter how smartly you train or eat, growth only happens when the body is given time and sleep to repair. Let me ask you something. When do you think muscle actually grows? During the workout? Right after eating protein? The surprising truth is this. Muscle doesn't grow while you're exercising. It grows while you're resting. Training is the stress. Nutrition is the building block, but recovery is the window where repair and adaptation happen. And after 70, recovery becomes even more critical because the body's repair machinery runs slower and is more sensitive to disruption. Without quality recovery, the signals we've been talking about, protein, exercise, the brain-muscle connection, simply don't get translated into lasting gains. Here's what the research shows. During deep sleep, your brain enters slow wave activity, and this is when growth hormone is released at its highest levels. Growth hormone is like the supervisor who tells your body to start repairing tissues, regenerating cells, and reinforcing muscle fibers. If sleep is shallow, fragmented, or too short, growth hormone release drops dramatically, and so does your ability to build muscle. Studies in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism show that older adults who sleep less than 6 hours a night experience significantly lower rates of muscle protein synthesis compared to those who get 7 to 8 hours. In other words, lack of sleep blunts the very process we're trying to optimize with protein and training. And it's not just about muscles. Sleep also fine-tunes the nervous system. During REM sleep, your brain replays motor patterns. You practice during the day. That means if you did resistance training or balance drills, your brain literally rehearses those movements at night, strengthening the pathways so they're more efficient the next time. Think of it as overnight coaching for your brain-muscle connection. So how do we improve recovery and sleep after 70? Here are some simple, evidence-based tools. Create a wind-down routine. Bright lights, screens, and late-night stimulation suppress melatonin, the hormone that helps you fall asleep. Dim the lights an hour before bed and swap screens for reading or gentle stretching. Temperature matters. Research shows that cooler environments, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, promote deeper sleep stages. Protein timing. Some studies suggest that consuming a slow-digesting protein like casein before bed can provide amino acids throughout the night, supporting repair while you sleep. Daylight exposure. Getting natural sunlight in the morning helps set your circadian rhythm, making it easier to fall asleep at night and improving sleep quality. Think of recovery like recharging a battery. If you only half charge your phone, it won't last through the day. If you only half recover, your muscles won't adapt fully to the training and nutrition you worked so hard to optimize. Here's a reflective question for you. Are you treating sleep as seriously as your exercise and nutrition? Because for many people, it's the missing link. They lift weights, they eat protein, but they never maximize growth because the body never gets the recovery signal. So the key takeaway here is simple. Growth is built in silence. When you prioritize deep, restorative sleep, you amplify everything else: your training, your protein intake, your nervous system function. And now, we'll tie everything together into a simple 3-part blueprint, so you have a clear, actionable plan for building muscle after 70 step by step. We've covered a lot of ground, from the science of anabolic resistance to why leucine matters to the role of the brain in recovery. Now let's put it all into a practical system. Think of this as your muscle-building blueprint for life. After 70, 3 pillars that, when combined, create the strongest possible foundation for health, independence, and vitality. Pillar 1. Nutrition and protein strategy. Start by aiming for 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein per meal, with an emphasis on leucine-rich sources. Whey protein is the most effective tool here, because it delivers the leucine threshold that flips on the muscle-building switch. Here's a sample day. Breakfast. Whey protein shake blended with berries and a handful of nuts. Lunch. Grilled salmon, or chicken with vegetables and quinoa. Dinner. Lentils or lean beef paired with leafy greens and olive oil. The goal isn't to obsess over numbers, but to hit that threshold 3 times a day, so every meal is a muscle-building signal. If you prefer plant-based proteins, look for blends fortified with leucine, or add supplemental leucine to match Whey's effectiveness. Pillar 2. Strength and balance. Training protein is the raw material, but exercise is the architect. To build muscle after 70, you don't need marathon gym sessions. What you need is consistency and compound movements that train multiple muscles and keep the brain engaged. Here's a simple weekly framework. Twice a week, resistance training. Use body weight, resistance bands, or light weights. Focus on squats, push-ups against a wall, rows, and overhead presses. Daily. Balance practice. Stand on one leg while brushing your teeth. Walk heel to toe in a hallway, or practice gentle yoga poses. These exercises not only strengthen muscles, but also train the nervous system to recruit fibers more efficiently, reducing fall risk and keeping the brain sharp. Remember, you're training your brain just as much as your body. Pillar 3. Recovery and sleep optimization. The final piece is recovery. Without it, nutrition and training don't stick. Prioritize 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. Dim the lights before bed, cool the room, and aim for regular sleep-wake times. Consider a slow-digesting protein like casein before bed to provide amino acids while you sleep. Recovery also includes active rest, gentle walks, stretching, or breathing exercises that reduce stress and improve circulation. Chronic stress raises cortisol, which directly interferes with muscle growth and recovery. When you bring these 3 pillars together, nutrition, strength training, and recovery, you create a self-reinforcing cycle. Protein fuels the muscle. Exercise teaches the brain to use it. Sleep and recovery lock in the gains. And here's the most important part. You don't need to be perfect. Progress comes from small, consistent actions. Adding 1 Whey shake, doing 2 sets of squats, or committing to an earlier bedtime may feel small, but each is a powerful signal. Over time, those signals stack into real transformation. So ask yourself, which of these 3 pillars can I begin with tomorrow? Pick one, start small, and let momentum build. Now I'll recap the key insights we've covered and leave you with one challenge that can start shifting your health and strength immediately. Let's step back and connect the dots. We started by dismantling an old belief that muscle loss after 70 is inevitable. The truth, as modern science shows us, is that your body retains the ability to grow and adapt at any age. The difference lies in the signals you send. We saw that the real culprit isn't age itself, but anabolic resistance. Your muscles need a stronger push to activate growth. And that push comes from two main sources: the nutrients you give your body and the way you train your nervous system. We then uncovered leucine, the master switch of muscle growth. While eggs remain a great whole food, whey protein delivers the leucine threshold most seniors need to flip on the mTOR pathway, the signal that tells your body, start building now. With every scoop of whey, you're not just feeding your muscles, you're amplifying their ability to respond. We talked about timing, how hitting the leucine threshold at each meal matters more than total daily protein alone. 3 strong protein signals per day are far more effective than one big dose at night. And when timed around training, that signal becomes even louder. Then we zoomed out to the brain. Because muscles don't grow in isolation, they grow when your nervous system learns to recruit more fibers. Every squat, every balance drill, every mindful movement is a way of teaching your brain to fire more efficiently. And that efficiency translates into strength, stability, and even cognitive health. But as powerful as training and nutrition are, they only work when paired with recovery. Deep, consistent sleep is the secret ingredient. It's in those quiet hours of slow wave and REM sleep that your body releases growth hormone, repairs tissues, and your brain rehearses the movements you practiced during the day. Growth happens in silence. Finally, we condensed all of this into a 3-part blueprint: nutrition, 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal, with whey as a cornerstone; training, twice weekly strength training plus daily balance drills; recovery, 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep with stress management and gentle activity on rest days. That's the framework. Simple, practical, and backed by neuroscience and physiology. Now here's the challenge. Choose one. Just one. Maybe tomorrow morning you swap toast for a protein-rich shake. Maybe tonight you dim the lights early and aim for a deeper sleep. Maybe you start with 2 sets of chair squats. Pick one and start. Because action, no matter how small, sends the signal that growth is still possible. And here's the bigger picture. Building muscle after 70 isn't about vanity or gym performance. It's about living with strength, independence, and clarity. It's about protecting your brain, your balance, your ability to do the things you love. It's about choosing vitality over decline. So if this conversation gave you a new perspective, if it sparked even a small shift in how you see your body and your future, I'd love for you to join this community. Like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe so we can continue exploring these science-driven tools together. Because this channel is about more than information. It's about transformation, about growing stronger in body and mind at every stage of life. Your body is listening, your brain is adaptable, and no matter your age, the signal to grow is still waiting to be sent. So here's the question I'll leave you with. What signal will you send tomorrow?